Yeah, absolutely, Devin. What we're going to do is just start off very quickly with the internet access issue. Why is it so important that poor communities actually have access to the internet in the first place? And often those poor communities happen to be in rural areas as well. So we're taking a look at a survey known as the General Household Survey for 2017. The average in terms of internet access for South Africans at their homes, 10.6%. Take a look at the average for rural communities, Devin, less than 2%. So clearly a divide in terms of infrastructure when it comes to access to the internet at home. And not surprisingly, a similar picture when it comes to access to the internet at home, I beg your pardon, at the office. Average there across the country, 17%. Rural, just over 4%. So many rural communities not having access to the internet either at home or at work. But the picture starts to change, Devin, when you search for the numbers of South Africans with access to internet on their mobile phones. The average for the country, just under 57%, and that gap really starts to narrow in rural communities where it is close to 40%. So that really gives you a sense that mobile phones and data on mobile phones has helped to narrow that gap between the urban and the rural divide. But let's take a quick look, Devin, at some of the cost issues. Data pricing. This is what came up yesterday at the hearing. So we took an average of prices for 1 gigabyte of data. That's prepaid data, roughly 149 Rand. It sounds expensive, and for many South Africans it is, but the mobile operator is telling us, Devin, that when the spectrum increases, so that's the radio frequency available to mobile operators, then the price is actually going to shrink. They wouldn't say by how much. They say they can't work that out just yet, but they say we will be paying less. And rural communities, poorer communities, hopefully will be paying less for prepaid data. But now let's get to the pricing issue. Are the poor being discriminated against? Well, perhaps not directly, but in a sense, Devin, they are. So let's take a consumer, perhaps in Johannesburg, typically more wealthy than your average rural consumer. Maybe it's a business person who has a few hundred rands to spend on prepaid data. They're going to splash out 400 Rand for 5 gigabytes of data. And if you work that out in terms of megabytes, that's 8 cents per megabyte. So that's the price that you might pay for a large data bundle. Now let's take perhaps an elderly gentleman who wants to get in touch with his family. He's based in a rural community, maybe Lusiki in the Eastern Cape, for instance. He can only afford 500 megabytes, Devin. He'll have to pay 99 Rand for that. That's all the money he has for his data bundle. But take a look at this. This is where it gets interesting. The price per megabyte is substantially higher. In fact, it's more than double what your business person in Johannesburg is paying for their 5 gigabytes of data. The price there, 20 cents per megabyte. Why is that the case? Well, of course, the mobile operators want you to buy bigger data bundles. But in the process, of course, poorer communities who can't spend that much on data are really having to spend more per megabyte of mobile data.
And Michael, I think